Life has a way of weaving unexpected stories, and this one begins in the most unlikely of places, a bustling street corner where the lives of a wealthy architect and a struggling woman collide. Logan Carter, a celebrated architect with a reputation for designing the most innovative buildings in the city, has it all: wealth, success, and prestige. Yet beneath the polished exterior lies a man carrying the weight of heartbreak, betrayal, and the challenge of raising his 7-year-old daughter, Ellie, on his own. On the other hand, Laura Bennett is a woman whose life has unraveled. Once a hopeful entrepreneur, she now finds herself homeless, grappling with the pain of loss and betrayal. When their worlds intersect through a fleeting yet fateful moment, neither of them can predict the profound impact they will have on each other's lives. What begins as an act of kindness, a stranger saving a little girl from a reckless car, sets off a chain of events that will test their courage, resilience, and capacity for love. As secrets from the past come to light and unexpected opportunities arise, Logan and Laura discover that the bonds formed in the face of adversity can heal even the deepest wounds. What would make a man of power and privilege place his trust in a woman society overlooks? How does a single moment spark a journey of redemption, faith, and unexpected love? And what hidden truths will emerge to change their lives forever? This story of transformation, courage, and second chances will move you to tears and inspire your heart. Don't miss the opportunity to follow this remarkable journey. Subscribe to our channel now and be the first to witness the twists and turns of this unforgettable tale. The best stories are yet to come. Stay tuned. Logan Carter was a man defined by precision. Every hour of his day was planned to perfection, from dropping Ellie off at school to navigating back-to-back meetings at his bustling architecture firm. But even the sharpest of routines couldn't fill the void left behind by betrayal. Excellently planned, he had abandoned their marriage and sought solace in the arms of his business partner, Ethan, a man Logan had once trusted like a brother. The betrayal had cost him more than just his marriage. Ethan had manipulated their shared company's finances, leaving Logan to rebuild his career and reputation from scratch. Despite the heartbreak, Logan's priority had always been Ellie. A bright and curious child, Ella manipulated their dark world. Yet, as Logan poured himself into his work, he often found himself struggling to balance being a present father with the demands of his career. Ellie, wise beyond her years, never voiced her disappointment, but her longing for her mother's affection was evident in her struggles with Mia's absence. One rainy afternoon, Logan found himself racing against time. His meetings had run late, and Ellie was waiting for him at the ballet studio. When he finally arrived, she sat on the steps, her pink tutu soaked through, her tiny face lit up in relief. "Daddy," she said softly, "I wish you didn't have to work so much." Those words cut deeper than any business deal gone wrong. That evening, Logan vowed to do better. But promises, as he knew, were easier made than kept. Laura Bennett had once believed in dreams. She more profound grown up in a modest town, with parents who did their best to support her but lacked the resources to provide her with a stable future. Laura's resilience and creativity had propelled her to start her own small business, a floral boutique that brought her community bursts of color and hope. It had been her pride and joy until everything unraveled. She met Damien, a charming man who seemed like the perfect partner. His confidence masked a darker reality. After gaining her trust, Damaher's community drained her disappearance, leaving her with debts she couldn't pay. The shop closed, her home was repossessed, and Laura found herself navigating shelters, searching for any spark of hope to reignite her shattered drained savings ends with Logan and Ellie. She had long stopped expecting miracles. Each day was a struggle to find enough food, a safe place to rest, and the will to keep moving forward. Yet, something about Ellie's bright smile stirred a memory of the life Laura had once envisioned, a life of warmth, purpose, and love. The turning point came one fateful afternoon when Laura stood at the corner of a busy street, holding a card that read, "We'll work for food." As the light turned green, she noticed a little girl darting onto the road, chasing a toy that had slipped from her grasp. Without hesitation, Laura leapt forward, pulling Ellie back just as a speeding car screeched past. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Laura asked, her voice trembling as she steadied Ellie on the sidewalk. The child's big eyes brimmed with tears as she nodded. Thank Yolapedli whispered, her voice shy. Moments later, Logan arrived, frantic. He swept Ellie into his arms, his heart racing as he pieced together what had happened. Turning to Laura, his voice was firm but tinged with gratitude. I don't know how to thank you, he began, then faltered as he took in her disheveled appearance, tangled hair, worn clothes, and a tired yet kind face. It's nothing, Laura said, brushing off his thanks. I just happened to be here. But Logan wouldn't let it go. He noticed the way Laura avoided eye contact, the way her hands fidgeted nervously. Can I do something for you? He asked. Laura hesitated before replying, I don't need charity, but if you really want to help, I need a job. Logan studied her for how. Though weary, her voice carried quiet and nation, and her eye held a spark of resilience. Against the advice of his secretary, Harper, he made a decision. Come to us tomorrow, he said. We'll find something for you. The following day, Laura walked into Logan's architecture office, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and doubt. She wore her cleanest clothes, a worn blazer that had seen better days, and slacks that no longer fit quite right. Despite her best efforts, she felt out of place amidst the sleek, modern interior of the office. Every corner gleamed with the efficiency and precision that Logan's reputation commanded. As she stepped into the reception area, Harper, Logan's secretary, eyed her with thinly veiled disdain. You must be Laura, Harper said, her tone clipped. Follow me. Mr. Carter is expecting you. Laura's resolve nearly wavered under Harper's sharp glare, but she held her head high. When Logan greeted her in his office, his warm smile immediately eased her nerves. Laura, he said, gesturing for her to sit, I'm glad you came. Let's talk about what you can do here. Over the next hour, Logan laid out the expectations for an assistant position, careful not to overwhelm her. He watched as Laura listened intently, occasionally nodding, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Though her exterior seemed fragile, her focus and determination were unmistakable. Are you sure yours? Logan asked gently. It'll take a lot of effort, and I need someone I can trust. Laura looked him in the eye and replied firmly, I won't let you down. All I need is a chance. Laura's first few days were challenging. Harper was less than welcoming, often assigning her tedious tasks and watching her every move. Buintayard complained. She arrived early, stayed late, and approached every duty with care. Whether organizing files, preparing documents, or simply tidying the workspace, she poured herself into the job, determined to prove her worth. Ellie often accompanied Logan to the office after school, and she took a liking to Laura almost immediately. The two would chat while Laura worked, Ellie sharing stories about her day or drawing pictures for Laura to keep. You're like a superhero, Ellie said one evening, her eyes wide. You saved me, and now you're helping my dad. Laura smiled, tucking one of Ellie's drawings into her bag. I'm just trying to be someone you and your dad can count on, she replied softly. Not everyone was as charmed by Laura as Ellie was. Harper, driven by jealousy and a long-standing affection for Logan, grew increasingly hostile. She began spreading rumors among the staff, questioning Laura's background and intentions. Logan noticed the tension but chose not to intervene immediately, hoping the team would come to accept Laura on their own. One afternoon, Harper devised a plan to discredit Laura. She intentionally left sensitive client files on her desk and then accused Laura of snooping when she walked by. I knew this would happen, Harper hissed, storming into Logan's office. I warned you about hiring someone like her. She's untrustworthy. Logan, visibly frustrated, called Laura in to address the accusation. Laura, her voice trembling but resolute, denied any wrongdoing. I didn't touch those files, she said firmly. I've worked hard every day to earn your trust. If you think I'm lying, I'll leave right now, but I won't stand here and be accused of something I didn't do. Before Logan could respond, Ellie burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. It's not true, Dad, she cried. I saw Harper move those papers and then call Laura over. She's lying because she doesn't like Laura. Stunned, Logan turned to Harper, his expression hardening. Is this true? He asked. Harper faltered, unable to meet his gaze. The weight of Ellie's words and Harper's silence told Logan everything he needed to know. "Harper," Logan said coldly, "I think it's best if you take some time off. We'll discuss your future here later." Harper left the room in a huff, her plan to sabotage Laura having backfired spectacularly. Logan turned to Laura, his voice softer. "I'm sorry this happened. I should have handled things sooner. You've done nothing but work hard, and I let someone else make you feel unwelcome." "That won't happen again." Laura nodded, a mix of relief and gratitude washing over her. "Thank you for believing in me," she said quietly. The weeks that followed marked a turning point. With Harper temporarily out of the picture, Laura's confidence grew, and she became an integral part of the team. She also grew closer to Ellie, who often sought her out for help with homework or to share stories about her day. For Logan, watching their bond deepen was bittersweet. It reminded him of what Ellie had missed with Mia, but also gave him hope for the future. One evening, as Logan worked late in his office, he glanced up to see Laura sitting with Ellie in the lounge area, helping her with a science project. Ellie's laughter rang out, fit the otherwise quiet space, and Logan smiled. Later that night, as Laura prepared to leave, Logan stopped her. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said, his tone hesitant. "How did you end up in the situation you were in when we met?" Laura hesitated, but the trust she had built with Logan gave her the courage to open up. "It's a long story," she began, her voice tinged with both sadness and resilience. She told him about her childhood, her failed business, and the betrayal that had left her homeless. "I don't share this to get sympathy," she said quietly. "I just want you to know that I'm not who I was back then. I'm trying to rebuild, one step at a time." Logan listened intently, moved by her honesty. "Thank you for sharing that with me," he said. "I've been through my share of betrayal too, so I know how hard it is to start over. But you're doing it, and that's what matters." Just as things seemed to be falling into place, an unexpected SOGan's inbox, an invitation to Mia and Ethan's wedding. Along with it came a request from a prominent investor to meet during the event. Logan's heart sank. The thought of attending the wedding, of facing Mia and Ethan, felt unbearable. Yet the opportunity to secure a life-changing business deal was too significant to pass up. As he wrestled with the decision, one thought kept returning to him. He couldn't face this alone, and there was only one person he trusted to stand by his side. "Laura," Logan said the following day, his voice filled with hesitation, "I need your help. It's a big ask, and you're free to say no, but..." "What is it?" Laura interrupted, sensing his unease. Logan took a deep breath. "Really wasted to be my date for a day? Just for this wedding? It's complicated." Laura blinked in surprise, then smiled faintly. "You've helped me so much already," she said. "If this is what you need, I'll do it. Just tell me what to wear." The days leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of planning and subtle anxiety. Logan, ever the perfectionist, wanted everything to be just right. Laura, however, faced an inner storm. Despite agreeing to help, she worried about fitting into Logan's world, a world of luxury and refinement she had only glimpsed from Tide. But she told herself this was not just for Logan, but for Ellie, who had become like a little sister she adored. On the evening before the wedding, Logan handed Laura a sleek garment bag. "I had this tailored for you," he said, almost shyly. "I want you to feel confident tomorrow." When Laura opened the bag later that night in her small apartment, she gasped. Inside was a stunning gown, a deep emerald green that seemed to glow under the light. It was elegant without being ostentatious, perfectly crafted to highlight her natural beauty. Along with the dress, there was a delicate set of earrings and a pair of heels, both understated yet dazzling. Laura arrived at Logan's home the following day, dressed and ready. Logan couldn't hide his astonishment. Standing in his doorway, Laura looked every bit as radiant as the women he had once admired in society. Her transformation wasn't just in appearance. She exuded a quiet confidence, though her eyes still carried traces of the life she had endured. "Laura," he said softly, "you look incredible." Laura smiled, her voice steady but humble. "I just hope I can make this day easier for you." Ellie, peeking from behind her father, squealed with "You look like a princess." "Dad, can I come too?" Please. Lo chuckled the evening before the wedding, kneeling to meet Ellie's eyes. Not this time, Angel. You'll stay with Ash gasped when Julie, and we'll tell you all about it when we return. As Yura drove to the upscale venue, the air in the car was charged with a mix of nervousness and resolve. Logan glanced at Laura. No matter what happens today, just remember, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You're here because I trust you, and that's enough. Laura nodded, her heart steadying at his words. The venue was breathtaking. A grand ballroom adorned with crystal chandeliers, golden accents, and fresh florals that spoke of opulence. Logan and Laura entered arm in arm, immediately drawing attention. Heads turned, whispers followed, and Logan's calm demeanor didn't falter. Laura, despite feeling the weight of every stare, held her head high, her grip on Logan's arm firm. Tiffany, the bride, spotted them immediately. Her smile froze as her eyes darted from Logan to Laura, her polished exterior betraying a flicker of unease. Ethan, standing beside Tiffany, wore an equally strained expression. Logan, Tiffany greeted, her voice dripping with feigned warmth. It's so unexpected to see you here. And who is this lovely companion? Logan's smile didn't waver. This is Laura, my fiancée, he said, his tone cool but deliberate. We would be fitting to come and celebrate this joyous occasion. Laura extended a polite hand. Congratulations, Tiffany. Best wishes to you and Ethan. Tiffany's eyes narrowed slightly, but she forced a smile. Thank you. And Laura, what a stunning dress. Logan has good taste. As Logan and Laura moved away to mingle with the crowd, Tiffany's gaze followed them, a mix of envy and volupturing beneath her polished facade. As the evening progressed, Laura's presence continued to command attention. Guests approached despite being curious about the woman who seemed Laura to have appeared out of nowhere. Laura handled the interactions gracefully, relying on the rehearsed backstory Logan had shared with her. They had met through a mutual acquaintance and shared a passion for community-focused projects. The lie felt uncomfortable on her tongue, but she pushed through for Logan's sake. Meanwhile, Logan spotted his potential client, Mr. Zhang, an influential Chinese investor with interests in sustainable architecture. Introducing Laura to him, Logan felt a swell of pride as she conversed intelligently, drawing from her own experiences to discuss the importance of innovative design. Mr. Zhang was clearly impressed, nodding thoughtfully as he listened. This is a remarkable woman you have by your side, Mr. Zhang remarked to Logan. It's rare to see such authenticity in these circles. Logan smiled, his gaze shifting briefly to Laura. She's one of a kind. The atmosphere took a sharp turn during the dinner reception. Tiffany, visibly tipsy, took the microphone and addressed the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice slightly slurred but commanding. I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate my union with Ethan. But I also want to share something strange about a certain guest tonight. The room quieted as Tiffany's eyes locked on Laura. Some of you may have met Logan's fiancée, Laura. She's an interesting choice considering her background. Did you know she was homeless not long ago? Logan plucked her right off the streets. Instant interest rippled through the crowd. Laura froze, her face pale but composed. Logan's jaw tightened, his hand moving to rest protectively on hers. Tiffany continued, her tone mockingly sweet. It's just so inspiring, T. A rags to riches story unfolding before our very eyes. Laura stood abruptly, cutting through the murmurs. Excuse me, she said, her voice steady but firm. She stepped onto the stage, taking the microphone from Tiffany. Yes, it's true, Laura began, her voice clear and unwavering. I was homeless. I've faced hardship, betrayal, and loss. But none of that defines who I am today. What defines me is my resilience, my ability to stand here in front of you all, and my gratitude for the opportunities I've been given. Not by chance, but by people who saw my worth. She turned to Tiffany, her eyes steady. I've learned that real wealth isn't about money or status, it's about character. And, Tiffany, I hope you find the kind of happiness that doesn't rely on tearing others down. The room erupted into applause. Laura stepped down, her head high, while Tiffany, humiliated, stormed off the stage. As Laura and Logan left the venue, a dark SUV came speeding down the street. Laura, distracted by the emotional weight of the evening, stepped off the curb without looking. The car screeched to a halt, but it was too late. She was struck, her body crumpling to the ground. "Laura!" Logan shouted, rushing to her side. Blood pooled beneath her head as she lay unconscious. Panic grips Tiffany's him as he LP, his voice breaking. "Stay with me, Laura. Please stay with me." The ambulance arrived within minutes, but the ride to the hospital felt like an eternity. Logan sat beside her, clutching her hand and whispering, "You're strong. You've come so fast. Don't leave us now. Ellie needs you. I need you." As the paramedics worked to stabilize her, Logan felt the crushing weight of guilt. He had dragged her into his world, into his problems, and now she was paying the price. The hospital was a blur of activity when Logan arrived, cradling Laura's bloodied hand in his own. Doctors and nurses whisked her into surgery, leaving Logan to pace the sterile waiting room, his thoughts a whirlwind of fear and guilt. He blamed himself for what had happened. He should have protected her better, should never have asked her to come to that wedding. Hours passed with no word. Ellie, who had been brought to the hospital by Logan's sister Julie, sat quietly beside him, clutching his arm. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Is Laura going to be okay?" Logan, she knelt to meet her tear-filled eyes. "She's strong, Ellie," he said, forcing steadiness into his voice. "She's stronger than anyone I know. We have to believe in her." Finally, the surgeon emerged, his expression grave. "Unstable, but she's in a coma. The trauma to her head was severe, and there's no way to predict how or when she might wake up." The words hit Logan like a physical blow. He sat down heavily, his mind racing. How could he explain this to Ellie? How could he face the possibility of losing Laura, the woman who had become not just his trusted friend but a vital part of their lives? Logan refused to leave Laura's side. He set up camp in her hospital room, vigil through the nights, while Ellie drew pictures to decorate the walls. "She'll be his trusted friend," Ellie said, taping AP and never of them holding hands onto the window. "She'll know we were here." As days turned into weeks, Logan spoke to Laura often, recounting memories of their time together, sharing updates about Ellie, and confessing thoughts he hadn't dared to voice before. "I didn't realize how much you mean to us," he murmured one night, his hand resting gently over hers. "Ellie and we're better because of you. Please, Laura, come back to us." One afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived at the hospital. It was Paul Bennett, a poised older man with kind but searching eyes. Introducing himself as a prominent businessman, he explained he had been at the wedding and recognized Laura. "She looks exactly like my late daughter," Paul said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've had a private investigator look into it." He introduced Laura, who is my biological child. Log and A were stunned that D. "What are you saying?" Paul recounted a story of surrogacy gone awry. How the woman they had hired to carry their child had secretly given birth to twins, keeping one for herself. "It's complicated," Paul admitted, his voice filled with regret. "But I know Laura is my daughter. I want to be here for her now, to help her recover and give her the life she deserves." Logan struggled to process the revelation. Could this be true? And if so, what would it mean for Laura, for Ellie, and for the bond they had built? The days dragged on, with Logan and Paul taking turns at Laura's bedside. Paul shared stories about his life and his regrets, his voice tinged with longing as he spoke Ellie, and he never knew. Although hesitant wasp, I couldn't deny the sincerity in Paul's words. One evening, as Logan sat alone with Laura, he felt her hand twitch faintly in his breast. "Hey, Laura," he whispered, leaning closer. Her eyelids fluttered slightly, and the heart monitor beeped erratically. Logan scrambled to call for a nurse, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. The doctors confirmed it. Laura was waking up. It was a slow process. At first, her eyes opened only briefly, her gaze unfocused. Over the next few days, she began recognizing her surroundings, though her speech WD and movements were weak. Paul was the first to speak to her about her past. "Laura," he said gently, "I'm your father. I've spent so long searching for you without even knowing I should be looking. Laura, though overwhelmed, listened carefully as Paul recounted the story of her birth and the circumstances that had separated them. Tears welled in her eyes. All this time, she murmured, her voice be audible. I thought I was alone. You were never alone, Paul replied, his voice breaking. And you never will be again. As Laura began her recovery, Logan and Ellie remained her constant support. Ellie filled the room with laughter, reading books aloud and showing Laura her newest drawings. Logan, meanwhile, quietly handled the logistics, therapy appointments, home modifications, and financial arrangements to ensure Laura had everything she needed. One night, as Logan wheeled Laura out to the hospital garden, she broke the silence between them. Logan, she began, her voice steady despite her obvious fatigue. Thank you for everything. But I need to know, why did you stay? Logan met her gaze, his expression earnest. Because you're not just someone I work with. You're family now, to me, to Ellie. Apparentus I. He hesitated, then took her hand. Because I love you. Tears filled Laura's eyes. I never thought I'd hear those words, she whispered. Not after everything. You deserve to hear them, Logan said firmly. Every day, for the rest of your life. As Laura regained her strength, Paul extended an invitation for her to live with him, promising her the chance to take over his business empire. It was an opportunity that could change her life, but Laura's heart was elsewhere. Thank you, Paul. Invited them to sit together in the hospital room. For everything, for finding me, for being here. But my home is with Logan and Ellie. They've given me something I never thought I'd have, a family. I hope you can understand. Paul smiled, his eyes brimming with pride and sadness. I understand, he said softly, and I'm happy for you. But know that my home and my heart will always be open to you. When Laura was finally discharged from the hospital, Logan and Ellie welcomed her home with open arms. Their house, once filled with lingering shadows of the past, now radiated with love. Laura embraced her role as Ellie's mother figure, finding joy in the simple routines of family life. Logan, meanwhile, found peace in the realization that his fractured world had been made whole again. As for Paul, he remained a steady presence in Laura's life, visiting often and forming a bond with both her and Ellie. Together, they navigated the complexities of their newfound connection, building a relationship rooted in forgiveness and hope. Tiffany, meanwhile, was a shadow of her former self. The choices she had made left her sad and filled with regret. Her attempts to reconcile with Logan and Ellie were met with firm but compassionate boundaries. For the first time, she was forced to confront the consequences of her actions. Laura's return to Logan and Ellie's home marked the start of a new chapter for all of them. The once quiet and routine-filled house is now buzzed with warmth. She is vibrant. Meanwhile, Logan found peace in her for the first time, declared, "We're a real family now," and took every opportunity to help Laura recover. Logan had transformed the guest room into a comfortable space for Laura, equipping it with everything she might need. He was meticulous in ensuring her comfort, but Laura insisted on helping around the house as soon as she was able. "I need to feel useful," she said one morning, helping Ellie pack her school lunch despite still being in a wheelchair. Logan watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with pride and admiration. One possible part of Laura's new life was reconciling her newfound connection with Paul Bennett, her biological father. Although she chose to stay with Logan and Ellie, she felt an undeniable pull to understand her roots. Paul, too, made every effort to rebuild the years they had lost, often inviting Laura and her new family to his estate for dinners. On one such evening, Laura explored Paul's home, marveling at the grand yet welcoming spaces. In his study, she noticed a wall filled with framed photographs of his late daughter, Nora. Laura's heart ached as she saw how much she resembled one young woman in the pictures. Paul entered covertly, noticing her gaze. "She wishes," he said softly, his study why. "You're both so alike, kind, strong, and resilient. Losing her nearly destroyed me, but finding you feels like a second chance." Laura turned to him, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm still learning what it means to have a father," she admitted. But I'm grateful you never gave up searching for me. They embraced, a silent promise to rebuild what had been lost. Months passed, and Laura grew stronger. Her physical recovery was nearly complete, and emotionally, she had blossomed. Logan, too, found himself more at peace than he had been in years. He finally felt free from the shadow of betrayal that had hung over him since his divorce from Tiffany. One evening, after a simple family dinner, Logan took Laura's hand and led her to the backyard. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, casting a warm glow over the space. Ellie skipped behind them, holding a small box with a knowing smile. "Laura," Logan began, his voice steady but emotional, "you've changed my life in ways I can't even begin to describe. You've brought joy and love into our home, and you've shown Ellie and me what it means to be a family. I can't imagine a future without you by my side." He dropped to one knee, Ellie handing him the box with a giggle. "Will you marry me?" Laura's breath caught, her eyes filling with, "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. 1,000 times, yes." Ellie threw her arms around both of them, shouting, "We're going to be the happiest family ever." While Laura, Logan, and Ellie moved forward with their lives, Tiffany's downward spiral continued. Consumed by regret, she made repeated attempts to reinsert herself into Logan's life. Each time, Logan rebuffed her firmly but with compassion, reiterating that their chapter was closed. Tiffany's breaking point came when she received an eviction notice. Without Logan's financial support, and after Albert's abandonment, she had burned through her savings and faced the harsh reality of her choices. For the first time, Tiffany confronted the consequences of her actions. Alone in her empty apartment, she broke down, realizing that she had destroyed every meaningful relationship in her life. Despite everything, Logan couldn't ignore her plight. He arranged for a meeting at a local coffee shop, bringing Laura with him. Tiffany arrived, her appearance disheveled but her demeanor defiant. "What do you want, Logan?" she asked, bitterness seeping into her tone. "I want to help you, Tiffany," he said calmly. "Not for us, for Ellie. She needs to know her mother isn't lost forever." Laura chimed in, her voice kind but firm. "Tiffany, you have the chance to start over. We're willing to support you, but only if you're willing to make changes." Tiffany scoffed at first, but as the conversation continued, their sincerity began to break through her defenses. By the end of the meeting, she agreed to attend therapy and seek help for her drinking. I willed her life. She attended counseling, found steady as the conversation continued to work, and gradually reconnected with Ellie. Although their relationship was far from perfect, Ellie cherished the moments they spent together, her young heart eager to forgive. Meanwhile, Laura and Logan prepared for their wedding. With Paul's support, they planned a beautiful but intimate ceremony. On the day of the wedding, Laura stood in their momentary gown, a symbol of her journey. Paul entered the room, his eyes shining with pride. "You look stunning," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And more importantly, you look wedding day," Aura replied, smiling. "Happier than I ever thought possible." The ceremony occurred in a small garden surrounded by close friends and family. Ellie served as the flower girl, her laughter filling the air as she scattered petals down the aisle. When Logan and Laura exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye among the guests. "I promise to love you, protect you, and cherish every moment we share," Logan said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've taught me what healing means, and I can't wait to build out the guests." "Didn't she have a dry eye down her cheeks?" Responded, "I never thought I'd find a love like this. One that accepts every part of me, past and present. You've given me a family, a home, and a purpose. I promise to stand by you always." As they kissed, the applause was deafening. Ellie ran to them, throwing her arms around their waists. "Now we're a forever family," she declared, her smile radiant. With Paul's guidance, Laura took on a leadership role in his business, merging her new responsibilities with her commitment to her family. Together, she and Logan worked on radiantly smiling and transforming their city and community. Ellie thrived under their care, growing into a bright and confident young girl. Tiffany, though still rebuilding, found a sense of purpose in her own life. She and Laura eventually formed an unexpected but respectful bond, united by their love for Ellie. Loeb Cumming and Ellie are filled with love, Tiffany's resilience, and hope. They prove that even in the face of pain and betrayal, it's possible to find healing and build something extraordinary. With the wedding behind them, Laura and Logan dove headfirst into their shared dreams. Their home once became a sanctuary of love and growth. Laura, drawing strength even in the face of pain and betrayal from her newfound family and the guidance of her biological father, Paul, embraced her leadership role in his construction business. Together, they expanded their efforts into sustainable housing projects that prioritize community well-being over profit. Logan's architecture firm thrived, buoyed by the attention their projects received for blending beauty and sustainability. He often invited Laura to collaborate, her perspective lending a prioritizing touch to their designs. Their partnership was seamless, not just in business, but in life. Ellie, now fully settled into her role as the family's bright and curious center, thrived under their care. She loved helping with minor aspects of their work, often drawing playful designs for homes or community parks. Logan and Laura encouraged her creativity, taking her to project sites and teaching her about teamwork and perseverance. One evening, Paul invited the family over for dinner at his estate. As they sat around the long dining table, Paul cleared his throat, drawing their attention. "Laura," he began, his tone severe but warm, "you've brought a light back into my life that I never thought I'd feel again. And Logan, your busy." Paul cleared his throat to remind me of the man. I paused, his gaze shifting between them. "I've been thinking about the future, not just for my business, but for the legacy I want to leave behind. I'd like to offer you both a chance to co-lead Bennett Developments with me. Together, we can expand our reach and make a real difference in the world." Logan and Laura exchanged surprised looks. "Paul," Laura said, her voice tinged with emotion, "that's an incredible offer." "I'm honored. But are you smiling?" "I'm absolutely sure. The two of you are driven to continue what I started, and to take it even further." Logan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "If we do this, it's not just about the business. Creating something meaningful, something Ellie and future generations can be proud of." Laura reached for Logan's hand. "Then let's do it together." While their professional lives flourished, Laura and Logan remained deeply committed to their family. Tiffany, now in recovery and working on rebuilding her relationship with Ellie, reached out with a humble request to spend more consistent time with her daughter. Logan and Laura, though wary, agreed to establish clear boundaries for Ellie's sake. Slowly, Tiffany began showing signs of genuine change. She kindly requested and started volunteering at a local community center. Though it was a long road, her efforts didn't go unnoticed. One weekend, Ellie returned from a day with Tiffany, clutching a small handmade card. "Mom said she's proud of me," Ellie said softly, her eyes shining. "I think she's trying." Laura knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm also out of you for one weekend for giving her a chance." Ellie smiled. "You taught me that." Years later, Laura stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony of a sprawling housing development, a joint project between Bennett Developments and Logan's firm. The development, built with sustainable materials and designed to foster a sense of community, was the culmination of their shared vision. Paul, though retired, stood proudly beside Laura, his eyes filled with admiration. "This is just the beginning," Laura said in her speech, her voice steady and filled with conviction. "This project represents not just what we've built, but who we've become. A family that believes in the power of resilience, love, and second chances." Logan, standing nearby, clapped the loudest, his gaze never leaving Laura. Ellie, now a teenager, stepped forward to cut the ribbon alongside her parents, her youthful enthusiasm lighting up the event. As the crowd dispersed, Logan pulled Laura aside. "You've changed everything," he said, emotion-filled showpiece. "Not just for me and Ellie, but for everyone you touch. I'm so proud of you." Laura smiled, her hand resting on his cheek. "We've done it together. That's what makes it special." In the years that followed, the Carter Bennett family continued to grow, not just in influence, but in heart. Laura and Logan welcomed another child, a baby boy named Max, who brought even more joy to their lives. Ever the proud big sister, Ellie often said, "This is the family I constantly desired." While not a central part of their lives, it remained a steady presence for Ellie. Their relationship is now built on mutual respect and understanding. Paul, having found a renewed sense of purpose through his connection with Laura, spent his days mentoring young entrepreneurs and contributing to the community. Laura often reflected on the journey that had brought Havenge, from the depths of despair to the heights of fulfillment. She had Paul learn that life's greatest gifts usually come from its most complex trials and that love, in all its forms, has the power to heal and transform. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Ellie looked up and asked, "Do you think people ever get a second chance at happiness?" Logan smiled, glancing at Laura. Not only do they get a second chance, but sometimes that second chance turns out to be the best thing that ever happens to them. Laura squeezed his hand, her heart full. And sometimes, those second chances aren't just for us, for everyone we touch. As laughter filled the room and the smell of fresh bread wafted through the air, the Carter Bennett family knew one thing. They had built more than a home. They had built a legacy of love, hope, and resilience, one that would stand the test of time. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more heartfelt tales of hope and transformation. There's always another chapter waiting to inspire you.